Good morning, Kerene.
Morning, Robert.
Let's talk heritage, okay?
Happy to do that.
Excellent. So I just met you, so you tell me a bit about yourself and how did you get into the industry and business of heritage?
Okay. Well, I have a company that does specialty finishes for the last 20 years.
Right.
You would have seen some of our finishes in various places, but not know who was doing it. And maybe in the last 12 years, some of my products were products which relate to preservation of the historic buildings.
Okay.
So just before that, I got involved with Citizens for Conservation and got a little active with it, and therefore began to understand more the importance of using the correct materials.
Yes, yes.
Based on the training that I received and on the products, the exposure, and then of course the relationship with Citizens for Conservation and understanding what needed to be done in Trinidad. I grew up in Trinidad, so I saw the deterioration of the buildings around the savannah. I see the deterioration of churches. I see the way that the jobs are botched sometimes.
Yes.
So it just led to my interest and allowed me to become more involved and develop my knowledge to be able to participate
Okay,
in a
so
more professional fashion.
based on what you were saying there, so even a simple error in the type of material you use on the walling outside, that could really destroy and quicken the destruction of that building?
Correct. Using the wrong paints, using Portland cement to repair buildings which were built 200, 300, 400 years ago, how many years ago, it means that you are not allowing the plaster, the original plaster, to breathe and therefore to continue to exist. So the wrong materials will cause the deterioration
So it's not
of the walls.
Okay, so it's not simply I just go to a hardware
No.
and pick up stuff and say I'm going to restore this I'm going to restore this site.
Definitely not. You need to use lime, and there are different types of lime.
Right.
You need to use the correct coatings or paint when the building is finished, so that when you see a building is blistering and the walls are starting to crumble, it's generally because they were improperly repaired.
Oh, okay.
So we will lose a lot of our buildings if efforts are not made to do what is correct to preserve them.
Would that make it even harder to restore? So if I have an old building and I use the improper material on it and the building starts to decay, coming in now with the correct material, does that make the job even doubly harder because you have to get rid of all this stuff off of the original?
For example, if a stone building was repaired, a stone and a original limestone building was repaired with Portland cement, all of the Portland cement has to be removed. You literally have to take it out and then repoint with the correct material, or replaster, take out all the old material and replaster with the correct materials.
And of course there's a cost there's a cost now attached to that now, because
Correct.
you now have to put labor now to remove all these things, and then you
Yes.
can actually start
Yes.
doing what it is to
Yes.
do. Okay, all right, so
And let me just add something. The part about that is that people do not understand the value of maintaining those old buildings, and therefore they feel the cost of the restoration
Yes.
is not worth it. Tear it down. People have said that to me. Why don't they just tear it down and put up a new building? But you lose part of your heritage, you lose
Yes.
part of your history, and the buildings are gone and they never will be replaced.
because look at the pride that we have right now with this Queen's Park Savannah, from some of those buildings that as a child I remember them broken down.
Correct.
So now you look, my daughter is 16, and the first time she saw the red house without the galvanizer around it
Oh my goodness.
was when it took it down, probably 2 weeks ago. So there's a pride. She said the place looks nice,
Yeah.
as you could now see what the original building looked like.
Yeah. Or the president's house.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Because you have we had presidents that came and left and had to live in their private residence.
Correct.
Instead of living there.
Correct. Yes.
All right. Okay. That's good. So how else do you get yourself involved in heritage in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, I belong to Citizens for Conservation. I'm on the executive, and we lobby, we demonstrate, we reach out, we try to speak to the stakeholders. We participate in workshops. A few years back, we had a conference. The citizens group, we go to conferences overseas so that we could network and learn from other people. We try to learn from the countries that have done very well with
Correct, okay.
adaptive reuse and how they have maintained their heritage, so that we're part of a lobby group, really.
Okay. Is this your drive that you had, that force that you said, I need to start a business that helps with from material to expertise to labor? So how is that the catalyst to this?
Yeah, that was part of the journey. I was already doing specialty decorative finishes, and when I understood, and one of the products that I represent kind of opened the door into heritage materials, because the product comes from France.
Okay.
It's a limestone product that comes from a mine that is over 150 years old.
Okay.
So that opened the door, and then I began to understand the materials and began to develop an interest. But basically the interest in preserving our culture and our history was there because I have children, and I
Yes.
want them to understand what we had when we were younger.
So
Or what we saw, at least,
Okay.
part of that history.
you said something that's interesting. So you said there's a minefield in France. So are there different grades of
limestone, yeah.
limestone?
Yeah, limestone, yeah.
Are there different grades of limestone? So it's just not
Correct.
simply going to buy the
Yeah.
first limestone that you
Yeah.
see?
Some people, some contractors would buy the lime that you get in a hardware,
Right.
and mix it and say that it's going to give them the same results. It's not quite correct, because we have different grades of lime.
Okay.
You have an NHL starting from 2.0, 3.5, up to 5, and you use it for different parts of the building and for different purposes.
Oh, okay. So
And then we have different kinds of coatings that will go on the wall, depending on if the wall is recently done. You will do the old and the new. You have to blend the old and the new, so you use something that is going to marry the two, and when you finish, it's going to give you a surface that is acceptable.
So this process cannot be just simply copy paste.
No.
Okay.
No. And you need, we need to understand that people who understand heritage construction
Yes.
have to lead on projects of that type.
Okay. Okay.
Because often, company will come to me and say that we need to get some lime, or we need to get, and when you try to explain to them what the process is, they're not really prepared, or they don't have the budgets to do it. So part of it is the budget constraint.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can understand.
By the client, by the government, by whoever is driving that need.
Okay. So based on what you just said, just as we speaking here, so the cathedral church will have needed different sort of material and components to Whitehall, just simply by the environment or
Correct.
or the how strong the building was.
Based on where the building is, for example, the cathedral is built on a reclaimed land. So there were
Right.
portions there. I'm really not, I wasn't, some of my materials were used there, but the details of that could probably be better explained by one of either the architect or the engineer or by the contracting company. But there were parts of it that was underwater,
Right.
and therefore you had to use a different lime,
Okay.
different type of lime, and a different process there to repair it.
Okay. Okay.
So that determines Whitehall, for example. Some of it was made with a different type of material. It was made with crushed, like shells and stuff like that. So there was more salt content there.
Okay.
So it varies, and that is why sometimes you have to core the building and get an analysis done of what was used to know what is the best way to repair.
Well, that's what I realized for this conversation, that you are just not, as my grandfather said, not just running in while to say, let's restore this building.
Correct.
There's a lot of research and
Correct.
analysis you need to do before you get into it.
Yes. And my company has managed to be in contact and to have a relationship with several suppliers of different kinds of material.
Right.
So that if you're restoring a church and you need to get a material that is colored to match the existing bricks and so, we
Right.
can provide that.
Okay.
And you'd send it up and they will color match it, and then they would be able to get the special material
Well,
to do the repairs.
what I noticed with this conversation is you need people who understand heritage,
Correct.
who are getting into heritage preservation.
Correct.
So the irony of it is that's where upcoming April really
Correct.
helps. So you
Correct.
get like minds coming together,
Yes.
and you could actually pull people who are interested in it but probably don't have enough information or knowledge. You know, we rarely admit we have limited knowledge with something. So you need to
Correct.
really encourage people
Yeah,
to
yeah,
gain knowledge,
yeah.
to come. So let us sit together, talk heritage, and as we push for people could have understanding, so you won't have mishaps, because you really don't want one of our beautiful buildings not done properly, and now you have to do extra effort to save the building and to do it properly.
That is very correct. So that the workshop, the upcoming workshop is going to serve that purpose. It will pull together people who are interested. It will allow craftsmen.
Right.
It will allow us to develop a whole cadre of craftspeople who will be able to be part of organizations and part of a company that is going to do the preservation in a fashion that will ensure the longevity of the building.
Okay, very good.
So it is really critical, and it really is very necessary, and I would want to encourage people who have that interest to reach out and get information, which I'm sure will be provided.
Yes.
In terms of how you can communicate and contact, so that registration can be done early and come and participate and learn more.
Yes, because those things are really critical to not only from Trinidad culture, Tobago culture, the Caribbean culture, those things, and they also could drive tourism, drive income. Some of those buildings could probably pay for themselves if we do it properly and we make it attractive to bring in what is tourists or even locals.
Correct.
You have even
Correct.
locals, because you have again, I just spoke about the Red House earlier. I've never gone to the Red House. I've recently heard when they have the public galleries where people used to go
Yes.
and listen to Parliament.
Yes.
Right. So fix the building. You charge a nominal fee, and you bring people in, and those things add to the pride of the nation. So those things are really critical to us.
Well, Citizens for Conservation, in collaboration with the National Trust, has reached out and has prepared, has made suggestions how some of these buildings could be used to generate income to continue the preservation,
Yes,
the
yes.
maintenance.
Correct.
Because maintenance is really important.
Yes.
We've just spent a lot of money on several buildings in Trinidad. The Cathedral, the Red House, which is now being completed, and actually the Red House does have 2 public galleries, so people will be able to go in and listen to the parliamentarians.
Okay, good.
I don't think they're going to charge. But, Stonemeyer's Castle, all these buildings now can be put to use, that they will generate some income, so that the income can go towards maintenance.
Yes. Because
But it has to be managed. It has to be done in the correct fashion, and the National Trust, with Citizens for Conservation just behind supporting, has always been prepared to take on that challenge.
Because would you say it's easier to maintain than to restore?
Yes, after you spend $50 million, it is much easier to have a budget to maintain it every year than to have to go back in the next 15 years or 10 years and spend more money.
Okay, good. All right, well, excellent. Well, so as we wrapping up here, so I appreciate the value that your company brings to the whole scheme of heritage in Trinidad and Tobago, because it will hurt your heart to see a building go up and you pass a year later and it looks like work was never done, because there are some buildings that are like that throughout Trinidad and Tobago where you wonder what was done when they were building or restoring it.
We, as a country, we have a very bad maintenance history.
Right.
We really don't feel that we need to. So we put up buildings, we spend a lot of money to erect buildings, even new buildings, and then they're not properly maintained.
Yes.
And you pass and see a building that has been restored 2 years ago, and you see a tree growing out of the guttering.
Yes.
That's quite painful.
Yeah. Just downtown Skyline, you see there are 1 or 2 of our buildings where you see small trees growing out of the guttering. That's unfortunate.
Poor maintenance.
Okay, that's okay.
So we should be maintaining those buildings the same way we maintain our homes,
Yes.
we maintain ourselves. You have to care for them. You have to give them love and care.
Yes. Okay. Well, Kerene, thank you very, very much as we spoke heritage, and we'll continue because we always have to just talk heritage.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. My pleasure to be here.